When you hear the word creativity, what comes to mind? Maybe it's an artist in a studio painting on a canvas, or a musician writing their next big hit. If you're anything like me, maybe it's a writer on like a vintage typewriter, tapping away at some new masterpiece. But here's the thing. Creativity isn't just about big artistic pursuits. It's not reserved for painters and poets and prodigies. Anybody can be a creative. You can be a creative, and you probably already are, even if you don't think you are. Because creativity isn't a magical talent. It's not about being special, and it's not about big, flashy ideas that take the world by storm. Sometimes it is, sure, but it's at its core, it's about thinking in new ways or solving problems and making connections where there weren't any before. Whether you realize it or not, you've probably been doing that your entire life. Let's start by redefining what creativity even is. It's not just about art. It's not just about music or design or dancing. Creativity is everywhere in everyday moments. Think about cooking, for instance. Creativity is figuring out dinner when there are only 3 ingredients in the fridge. It's experimenting with flavors and spices and making something maybe you've never made before. Or think about science. When researchers are solving problems, they're not just crunching numbers, they're experimenting. They're seeing patterns and thinking outside the box. Sure, there are guardrails and there are a lot of protocols in place to make all that happen, but it requires a lot of very complex problem solving to get to a good result. Even planning a road trip can be creative. Mapping out stops, finding hidden gems along the way, making the journey fun, that takes a lot of creative energy. And so really, at the end of the day, if you've ever solved a tricky problem, come up with a clever solution, or thought outside the box, congratulations, honestly, because you're creative. Here's a myth. Creativity and logic are complete opposites. Here's the truth. They're actually more like teammates. Take engineers, for example. Designing a bridge involves math. It involves physics. It involves a lot of studying and a lot of really concrete but complex practical thinking. It also requires imagination, though. Figuring out what materials to use, what shapes. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence and a lot of, practical know-how that goes into that, but problem solving and figuring out the specific use cases in scenarios that have never existed before, that takes creativity. Or think about chess, one of probably the most logical games out there. Winning isn't just about following the rules. It's about strategy, adaptation, clever moves that your opponent didn't see coming. Sure, you can beat your friends with a few strategies you find in a book, but the competitive players are the ones who can think ahead, who can adapt to situations along the way. If you're a logical thinker, you don't have to write yourself off as not being creative. In fact, problem solving probably is your greatest creative strength. Here's the amazing thing about creativity. It snowballs. Every experience, every skill, every piece of knowledge that you collect gets added into your creative toolbox. For example, if you're really into photography, you learn light and composition, and you think about how things look really differently. Later, you might be redecorating your living room, rearranging furniture, putting up new art, and those instincts are going to help you do that better and make things feel right. Maybe you're a gardener, or you enjoy gardening in your free time, but you're a designer in your day job. That appreciation for color, layout, textures, design could really help you build out your garden and make it beautiful. Creativity isn't just about mastering one thing. It's about connecting the dots between everything. So how do you embrace creativity? And how do you figure out in what ways you're creative. The first is to redefine what creativity actually means. Stop thinking of creativity as an artistic talent. Instead, see it as what it actually is: original thinking, problem solving. Whether you're planning a party, brainstorming at work, fixing a leaky faucet, you're more than likely being creative. And if you don't think you are, you're probably just thinking about it wrong. Number two, focus on the process, not the perfection. Creativity isn't about getting it right the first time, or the 10th time, or the 100th time. It's about experimenting, failing, learning, and giving yourself permission to mess up. Because at the end of the day, that's what creativity is, and that's how you grow. And then number three, look for connections. Pay attention to how your skills overlap. Maybe you love puzzles, and that makes you great at event planning, or you're really into history, and that helps you tell more compelling stories. Creativity doesn't exist in a silo. It's all about making connections and being better for it. Here's the truth. Creativity isn't about being the next Picasso or Mozart. It's not about finding the inner artist in yourself, even if you don't like art. It's about figuring out your own strengths, figuring out how you think, how you tick, how you solve problems, and bring ideas to life. You don't have to be naturally creative to get there. Creativity is a talent. It's something you build step by step all day long. So whether you're starting a new project, tackling a new problem, or just trying something completely new, remember, at the end of the day, you are more creative than you think. So keep experimenting, keep failing, but more importantly, keep going.